Hey guys, welcome back to Advanced Bass Fishing, and appreciate you guys coming by the channel and spending some time with me. Guys, today we're going to be talking about finesse worms. These little 3.5 and 4-inch worms, these are excellent during the springtime of the year. They are limit getters, catch a bunch of fish on them. And there's about 3 or 4 different ways that I like to fish them. And I really want to talk about the scenarios and the situations where a finesse worm is the top choice. I mean, it's like any other lure in bass fishing. It's like every lure has a time and place based upon things like water temperature, water clarity, time of the year, you know, the mood the fish are in. And finesse worms are one of the staples in bass fishing. They're one of those baits that are never going to stop working. The fish don't get conditioned to them. They're diminutive, they're small, they don't telegraph themselves. So we're going to get into that in today's episode. And also, guys, I'll put my favorite finesse worm in the link in this description, which is a Zoom finesse worm, 4-inch Zoom finesse worm. I have caught thousands and thousands of bass on this worm. Absolutely, in my opinion, the best finesse worm. I'll link that in my Tackle Warehouse link if you'd like to pick one up. And also, guys, real quick, anybody interested in booking an on-the-water lesson with me, a private lesson, you can do so by going to my Facebook page, Randy Blaukat Intuitive Angling with Randy Blaukat. Changed the name. Shoot me a private message for details, so appreciate that. Okay, guys, there's several different types that I have used over the past. I mean, I've caught a lot of fish like on these robo worms like this. That's a good worm. There's some oddball ones. I can't even remember who made these here, but, you know, I picked a few up and caught fish on them. But they all sort of like fall in the same category in the terms that they are small diameter worms under 5 inches long. And by far, you know, the one that I use 90% of the time is the Zoom finesse worm here. It's an outstanding worm for finesse worm fishing. And there's a couple different ways I want to talk to you all about, if I can get my glasses here, about how I like to fish them. And the first way is on just a shaky head. And I usually like to use a light shaky head, like a 1/16 of an ounce. And this is a really good bait, especially if you have a lake that has a lot of spotted bass in it. This is probably one of the best, if not the best, spotted bass lure that you can fish. But little finesse worm like that, deadly on a 1/16 ounce head. This is probably how I fish it most of the time. And another thing with the little 4-inch worm, guys, I prefer to fish it on 6-pound tests. I use 6 and 8-pound test Seaguar and Vizex fluorocarbon. If the water is real clear, or if I'm fishing down to 20 foot or so, I'll go with 6, and 8 if it's a little bit shallower or a little bit more off color there, but you can't go wrong with that. Now, the other way that I fish it, which a lot of people don't, you can see the thing there, is on a jig head too. Let me see if I can find my jig. Just for demonstration purposes, let me do this, but take it. I don't have my Ned rig here. So a little more prepared, guys, but I don't have my Ned rig here. But anyway, pretend this is a Ned rig and just rig it as a jig head. So come through with your jig head. Any type of a ball head will work. It didn't have to be a Ned head, but just a jig head like that. That's another really good way to work it. That's not shaky headed. Now, the times that I use the jig head is if I'm fishing a clean bottom. So say I'm fishing some gravelly or clay type points where there's nothing on it. There's just clay and gravel bottoms where there's no, snaggy rocks or brush. A lot of times I'll fish it like that for better hookups, since you have the hook already there. And then another way that I like to fish, that I have caught a bunch of fish, and a lot of people don't think that this works very good, but it does, is as a flipping and pitching bait. I'll take 20-pound test Seaguar and Vizex line, and usually a 3/16 or a 1/4 ounce flip sinker, and I'm going to Texas rig this thing. Now, this is what I call my mopping up bait. One of the ways I've done really good in tournaments over the years is, say, for example, the first day of the tournament, I'll catch them pretty good flipping a big jig, like a 1/2 ounce jig, and then they start getting off of it a little bit because it's a bulky bait. It's a large diameter bait. A lot of times I'll back it up with a Texas rig finesse worm here and flip and pitch it in the same type of area. Guys, this Texas rig finesse worm is deadly for pitching and flipping, even in off-colored water. I'm not talking about fishing clear water with this. A lot of times I'll use a black one or a June bug and just flip it and pitch it around whatever shallow cover that I have. I remember one tournament, I'll give you guys a good example. I was fishing this tournament on Lake Livingston, a Bassmaster Open Invitational down at Lake Livingston, Texas one year. And I found this one small creek. It was a pretty narrow creek, and there was a lot of isolated wood in it. It wasn't very big. It was a small creek. And I could work the entire length of the creek in a couple hours, and I'd have to come back and forth and back and forth. And the first day of the tournament, I think I had like, I don't know, 7 or 8 bites on a big half-ounce jig, like a half-ounce jig, black and blue, with like I was using a pork frog at the time, a #1 pork frog. And then the second day of the tournament, I went through there with the same jig, and I caught 1 or 2 fish, and they just quit biting it. So I had a black finesse worm on there, and I started pitching and flipping that black finesse worm, and wound up limiting out on that finesse worm the second and third day of the tournament. Fish were still there, but they were conditioned to that big profile bait, and the little diminutive bait worked really good, even that off-colored water. The water visibility was only about like that, and still caught them really good on it. But anyway, guys, I just wanted to talk about how effective that little 4-inch finesse worm is at times. It's a really good bait under super tough fishing conditions. Like I said, water visibilities can be all over the place, but it's a good bait on public bodies of water that get a lot of fishing pressure, post cold front situation where it's tough to get a bite, it's bright bluebird skies out. That is when I go to the little finesse worm. Tough fishing conditions, especially if there's spotted bass in the lake. So anyway, guys, hope it helps you guys out. We'll talk later.